Welcome to session 7, which is really exciting. The theme of session 7 is to look at the emerging mobile apps trend, super apps, and how that's going to drive e-commerce. We've heard, the past 2 days, challenges faced by e-commerce, various impediments. So let's look at how super apps, will change the landscape as well, and who will emerge, as Africa's super apps platform. We have 4 very distinguished speakers, esteemed speakers, technologists, entrepreneurs, visionaries. Now, this session will be moderated by Andrew McHenry. Andrew is the founder of Mobile in Africa in South Africa, and joining Andrew, Gour, Lentell, Eero, Tarjanne, and Emeka, Ajene, representing Moya, Ayoba, and Gozem respectively. So Andrew, if you are on the platform, I hope your internet is stable. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Maggie and Jose and the entire team for putting this together. And I appreciate you accommodating my request to do a roundtable, because I think this is a great topic for us to talk about. And like you said, I've got some great people going to join me in the panel. So just a bit of background about myself. I've been in technology for over 30 years, mostly based in the USA for 10 years, 2 years in the UK, back in Africa for the last 20 years, and I've spent the last 19 years in mobile. And like my company says, it's Mobile in Africa, and I'm a consultant in the mobile industry. And I'm really chuffed to have this panel, the guests that we've invited to talk about super apps and mobile trends, because I really think this is a great topic for your conference, specifically around e-commerce, because I think there's a great number of things that are happening globally around e-commerce and mobile. And I think Africa is really at the tipping point, and we're about to explode with all that's happening around mobile payments and super apps. And so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to try and be as quiet as I can and just try to let my panelists talk about what they're up to. And kicking off by saying, will you please just all go around, introduce yourself? Eero, starting with you.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. I'm a slightly less experienced than you are. I only have 25 years of experience in the space, but I'm catching up, at least percentage-wise. So my background is I've been working with the equipment vendors, I've been working with the handset vendors, venture capital, strategy consulting, and then with mobile operators as well. And since about 2 years ago, been working with Ayoba and heading the ecosystem development and business development.
Thank you. Gour.
Hi, I'm Gour Lentell. I was born and grew up in Zimbabwe. I've lived for many years overseas in England and Australia, and recently returned to South Africa 3 or 4 years ago to drive our business here. I've worked exclusively in the internet space since the mid-90s, had 2 previous startups. This is our 3rd venture, and very excited to be back in this part of the world. I'm currently in South Africa.
Thanks, Gour. Emeka, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great. My name is Emeka Ajene. After many years in the US, returned to Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm one of the co-founders of Gozem, which is a super app really targeting West and Central Francophone Africa. So looking forward to this discussion.
Thanks, gents. I think, so really to kick off the discussion, I think I want to put a question out, and I'm going to put it to Eero. In terms of, what do we define? What defines a super app? And maybe you can take it through your kind of definition of what a super app is.
I guess super app is either an app that does a lot of things, or it's a really good app doing one thing. Now, seriously, I think super app is one of those things that people are throwing around. Like the other one is ecosystem, and I think they are sometimes abused and misunderstood. If we take the definition that super app is an app that does many things, it's a good starting point, but it's not very helpful. So I'm more thinking about the ecosystem and how the app engages with B2B partners and end users. And let's say, I mean, I think Emeka has done great work in the trying to define different type of super apps, whether it's telco driven or whether it's financial services driven. But I think the common theme is that it's typically a super app has one key service and then services around it. So for example, you have lots of financial services, you have banks that you can do your banking, but you can also get a loan or do payment or remittances, etc. But I think for me, especially when you look at it through the kind of ecosystem lens, it's much more about how open the ecosystem is. So if we have a bank that offers lots of financial services under one app, to me, it's not necessarily a super app because it's all provided by one entity. So to me, that kind of an app is kind of a multi-purpose app. And then the other part is, and I would believe that most of the panelists here, we work for kind of open platform apps, at least for Ayoba, that's what we do, because we basically just build a platform for third parties to come and deploy their services on our platform. So it's a very different animal from having an app which offers many services, but all of them are provided by the same entity, or So that's I guess is helpful. I'm sure the other panelists will come up with other ways of defining or categorizing super apps.
Well, that was great. Thanks. And I agree. I will add a few points to myself, but I think let's just open it up to the floor and have Gour maybe just add a few comments as well. I think we could talk about this particular topic for the whole half an hour. So let's just try and keep it, to this another minute or so. Gour?
Sure. Thanks, Eero. I think an important aspect of anything called a super app is the level of engagement of users. The real super apps like WeChat in China is the most well-established, famous, and hugely impactful app. It's something you use all the time, all day, for for multiple things. So you're in it frequently and regularly for whatever the different services are, as opposed to just at one time when you're doing something payments related or shopping or whatever. And because you're in it all the time, that stickiness and engagement becomes the super part of the app thing, because you've got this audience that's highly engaged. The other key aspect is distribution in a market. You can call it something a super app and maybe have some sticky users, but if you've only got 1,000 people on it, it has no value or meaning to the market or industry as a whole. So its distribution in a market is really important. In China, everybody uses WeChat all day long for many things. It genuinely is a super app. And that distribution and engagement can be the hardest things of all to get for an app. Just because you call something a super app, unless it has those aspects amongst others, it really probably fails the test of super app, I would suggest.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Emeka, you got something to say around this as well?
Yeah, no, so I think I agree effectively with what was said overall. I think most of the key points were touched on. I'll just, I guess, dive a bit deeper, where in terms of I think Gour hit it on the head in terms of frequency engagement. But in terms of the distribution piece, I think to Eero's point, one of the points of a super app is kind of being open, right? So going to all the merchants in a region, saying join us, and there's some value there, right? So that value definitely has to be distribution to say, okay, we have X number of users, and so if you join our platform, you don't have to invest as much in customer acquisition. We'll do that for you. So there's a promise with the super app that super apps makes for merchants and vendors and other service providers. And there's a promise super apps make to actual users, which is, we simplify the experience for you. You don't have to have 20 different apps, go after 10 different services, come to one place, and we make this all simple for you. So
Yeah, and I think that's to touch on that point. In Africa, we have, I think, some unique problems in Africa. People have got phones with low specifications. They don't have like the ability to have hundreds and hundreds of apps on their phone for whatever it may be, music, this and the other. They've got 4 or 5 apps on it. So if you've got a super app that does all these things, that's why I think super apps will play such a vital role in e-commerce and in Africa, because people don't have this awesome high-spec phone to have all these other crazy apps on it. So I think we're all speaking about the same thing. So that was great. I think it was a great way to kick off. Is there anything else to say?
Oh, I was just going to echo that, Andrew. We did, in our case, some research in South Africa, which I think has very broad, characteristics that shared with the rest of Africa. But I came as a long-term internet guy, worked in the big market, global markets, US and so on, and coming back to Africa was shocked at one point to learn early on that the average number of apps that a user in South Africa, in this case, but it would be the same across Africa, the mainstream market, based on some very solid research we did, have less than 5 apps that they installed on their phone, which, the Silicon Valley model of there's an app for everything and you can have 100 apps and it's all great and whatever, just does not work in Africa. It absolutely can't, because of storage limitations on phones and data costs and all these things. If the average person in this region has around 5 apps on their phone that they installed, so it didn't come with the phone, a super app makes, the super app model makes perfect sense. And in some ways, it's surprising it was never done before now. Maybe we've been too keen on the Silicon Valley model and not actually reflected properly on this market.
Absolutely. I think we probably did very similar research on our side. And the other one is really, obviously that whenever someone downloads an app, then they have to delete another app, and it's horrible. But the other one, which was interesting, was when we started thinking of what to do and what are the issues we want to solve, is we realized that 95% of mobile phone users run out of airtime or data 2, 3, 4 times a week, which is quite horrible, because then your only option is to send call me SMS, which no one ever replies, and so it's interesting how I think from a very a different environment, when looking at the market, we actually identified some pain points and then tried to solve it, and ended up with a super app or multi-purpose app or platform app, whatever you want to call it. And it comes from a very, it suits the environment, which is very different from your China or your US. So yeah, I think we all end up in a similar same place.
And I'll just add to that very quickly. So we operate not in first-tier African markets, right? It's not a Nigeria, it's not a South Africa, it's not a Kenya. So Gozem operates in Togo, Benin, Gabon, and very soon Cameroon, right? So we have a different problem. We're still just very early in terms of the entire internet economy, right? So for us especially, there's a big trust opportunity, trust barrier, right? So if we're able to come in, and we've done this, we came in very simply with a highly reliable mobility product, right? So just ride hailing, Uber style, except for motorcycle taxis. And what we saw is just by doing this, we create a lot of trust with users, and then we're able to really leverage that trust. In fact, users come to us saying, Gozem, would be great if you guys could do X service, do Y service. And that creates a natural roadmap for us where we're able to just leverage that trust in this early internet ecosystem to create that super app opportunity across a diversity of services. So I think it's also unique. You have some differences between markets in Africa, but in terms of the entire continent as a whole, is certainly different opportunities than other parts of the world.
Yeah, I 100% echo that. I think trust is so important in this region. I mean, it is generally online, but particularly in this region. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, just to touch on, I think it was mentioned twice, Gour and yourself, Eero, as well. data. So access, so the data costs. Okay, and I think since we're talking about that, I know that you've both got some unique propositions in your offering from Gour from your side, and then from the Ayoba side. I think if you're on Ayoba, can you get like 1 gig for free on one of the operators or something? And I think obviously Gour, you've got the data free. Maybe you can just talk about that, because I think that is a truly uniquely African problem, because in Asia, everyone's got data, Wi-Fi everywhere. So let's talk about the data access point, because I think it's important.
So everything we do in our case, in our business name is Datafree, and our app in South Africa is called Moya, M-O-Y-A. It's entirely data-free, and by that we mean there is no data cost for the end user to access the platform, in this case of Moya. So data-free means literally there is no data cost. If you have no airtime data balance on your SIM card, you can still access a data-free service. And we've got a whole technology stack to enable that, basically using reverse billing from the mobile networks. And I'm not sure we've got time to go into exactly how all that works, but our whole thing is to offer a data-free experience. And I often have to point out to our investors and colleagues and others from particularly other parts of the world that the issue of data cost in Africa in general, and certainly South Africa has relatively high data prices, it's fundamentally a question of affordability. It's not how much does a megabyte of data cost in one market or another. It's what's the disposable income averages in that market, and the ability to purchase data at whatever price it is. And for the majority of people, they are constrained on data affordability. They can generally only spend so much money on data, and people are generally very careful about what they spend that money on. So I found it frustrating doing what we do and being in this part of the world, that friends and colleagues back in Australia, where I moved to South Africa from, kind of had this attitude of, why would anyone want to advertise to or connect with people with no money? That boils my blood, because nearly 1 billion people in Africa have income. It's just less than developed markets, so they're more cost conscious. It's not that they aren't consumers or don't spend money on whatever. They're just very, very careful about it. So that's where the affordability of data comes in. There's limits on how much time they can spend online. Then obviously what they do online has the same constraint in terms of spending or how much time they can spend on things. So in our case, we led with Moya being data free for messaging, and then other services in Moya. And that's a value proposition that's very clear and simple for people to understand. It's data free. I don't need data. It has huge value to the average mainstream market in certainly South Africa and across the region.
Thanks, Gour. And then I think, Eero, what do you guys got at? Don't you have like a data-free option or something?
Yeah, we do. It depends a little bit on the market. So depending on the regulatory environment and the needs. So we partnered with some of the operators in certain markets, and in some cases it's exactly data free is data free, and in other markets we have a fair usage policy, and in other markets we can't offer it just because of competition issues. But the funny thing is that although we found the same pain points obviously with data free. And we really thought that that's the key pain point. But interestingly enough, if we look at the roughly 10 million users we have at the moment, it's about 50-50 subscribers who use the free data option, and then other people who through other operators use it just like you'd use WhatsApp or WeChat or something else. So it's very interesting how it differs market by market, country by country. I mean, the obvious example I always use is Nigeria and Ghana, which are kind of close by, nearby, and people would think, they are similar countries, but they're like such opposites. What works in Nigeria probably will work in Ghana and vice versa, instead of the same thing happening.
Emeka, have you got something to add to that on the data costs accessing platforms?
Yeah, I mean, we're quite similar to Eero, I would say, where we work with different operators in different markets to, subsidize or otherwise address the cost of data. But I think more interesting is actually another initiative totally, right? Where a lot of people are offline, and rather than, offering zero rating or whatnot, we're trying to go directly to those users and have the question, can you use Gozem even if you don't have data at all, even if you don't have a smartphone? All right. So this is something we're working with. I think the model has been proving out across Africa with agents, right? So where you have agent as a dispatch point, or the agent is the one with data with the app that could then, you could go to him and order your groceries, go to him to order a motorcycle taxi for you. So this is an initiative we're piloting right now in Benin, and in the coming first quarter of the year, we should roll this out across our markets.
See, this is amazing, and just for the record, I did invite M-Pesa, Safaricom, and I did invite Vodacom, VodaPay. They just launched VodaPay, so they were invited to join the panel, but I think they're just too busy launching. So the reason to assemble this panel was because I think we all know the WeChats. I'm close to the guys at WeChat. In fact, the whole WeChat mini app, micro app inside the app was not something that they started with. It's something that they built into their product over time. So they didn't launch with that. It was messaging and photos, and eventually utilities, the stuff that you guys have been talking about, whether it's taxi hailing, they built up the trust. So that's the blueprint, that's the history. We can learn, we can look to Asia, to what they've done, and take some of those and better them. And I think what we're doing here is not a cut and paste because of the things we're talking about, okay? Access to data costs and things like that. And I think maybe that's the next question is, why is our kind of super app ecosystem different? We talked about the data, okay, than say a WeChat, okay? So why are we different in Africa? Why can't we just cut and paste? WeChat tried to launch it, they failed, okay?
They did. Although I think they're still available in South Africa, at least.
Too early. They were too early. They were too early. In my book, they were too early. But anyway, so that's a debatable point. But yeah, so they tried. But let's talk about you guys now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about copy pasting, does just because WeChat has been very successful in Asia, obviously in China, would it work in Africa or in the US or in Europe? It's actually a funny question because it's not really about copy pasting. So I was fortunate enough to be very closely linked to Rocket Internet and Jumia for the last 10 years. Rocket Internet, especially the brothers, they were always kind of bad-mouthed because they say, you're just copy-pasting ideas from the Silicon Valley, then first to Germany and Europe and Africa. But that's actually the really, really bad statement, because if you do a Amazon copy, such as Jumia, yes, you can copy it between Sweden and Norway, or between US and UK probably quite easily. But when you start copying it and implementing it in, let's say, Lagos, it's still the same service, but the challenges are just totally different. So just say, okay, Amazon does great in the UK, let's do the same in Nigeria. They totally underestimate the challenge of logistics, of payments, of security, of everything, really. So logistics, you can't just UPS stuff around. So coming back to WeChat, we funnily, when people ask what is Ayoba, we always say, it's WeChat for Africa. But that wasn't actually our idea. Our idea was to come up with something that provide Africans with good engaging content and solves their pain points. And we ended up with something that resembles, I guess, WeChat. But I think the point I'm trying to make is just by saying you have a business in this country and it works, and you take it and copy it, you have to look behind the app for the actual, day-to-day operations of a company, which might be totally different.
Got it. Guys, we've got 5 minutes going.
Well, it's further on this theme. The perspective I have is that the really powerful, if you like, or valuable super app platforms have the characteristics we spoke about further, but perhaps very importantly are localized and ubiquitous or have high distribution in a market, because every market is different, not just in terms of the obvious things, language, currency, or whatever, but in terms of type of content, what drives engagement, what people prefer and like, and local services and local brands. And I don't want to be negative on anything, but I almost think it's not possible to have a super app for Africa. There's just too many variances between markets. And really the most important ones that might emerge, yet to be seen, will be in a market individually. And it might be that a brand can be successful in multiple markets, but WeChat is absolutely huge in China, but doesn't really matter anywhere else. And Emeka's great article online about super apps highlights that in Indonesia there's a major super app platform whose name I forget, but Emeka will be able to tell us. Yeah, Gozem, that's right. And how they emerged and what they do have different journeys, but they've solved that problem. But it's really relevant in Indonesia, Gozem, but it's not really relevant anywhere else.
I think that's so spot on. I mean, when we are facing that issue, because a lot of Ayoba users, they come there for music, to listen to local music, or looking for news. And those are, if you are Eero, I can always go to BBC or Sky News or CNN. That's fine. But if you are in a small village in northern Uganda, there's not much in your local language available on the net. So the local theme is total and hyper local is super crucial. And funnily enough, if you open Ayoba in South Africa, the music offering is very different from when you open it in Ghana, or the services with the micro apps or mini programs that run on Ayoba. They are, well, some are global, but some only work in a certain country, and that's it. So absolutely, I think the customization is super important, but it's also obviously a big headache for the tech teams and the developers.
Exactly.
And of course, I don't want to take all the time. Of course, there's the question of payments. The really valuable super apps are enabling payments, and that's kind of the golden egg or the secret sauce, because once that's enabled, you enable so much commerce for many platforms, businesses, brands, or whatever in that super app platform. That's the magic. And I read a Wall Street Journal article a couple of months ago that an astonishing number in China, and obviously that's the big great example. There are a billion people have WeChat. 900 million users of WeChat have WeChat Pay, which is the payments platform in WeChat. That's not card-based or bank-based or whatever. It's its own payments platform. So the amazing number was, and the other big mobile wallet platform in China, there's only two. There's Alipay and WeChat Pay, and that's it. 70% of all transactions in the Chinese economy, all transactions are done with mobile wallets. 26% is cash, 4% is cards. That is an astonishing number because it's fast, efficient, QR code based, no POS terminals, no card merchant fees, etc., etc. It is way, way cheaper than cards. And when a super app platform can enable that, the commerce potential on top of it becomes enormous. That's what, it's fundamental to enabling the real commerce opportunity in a market. And that's certainly from our point of view, what we aspire to with Moya in South Africa, but it's a generic case. I'm not sure what Emeka's apps are doing, but that's the golden nugget, I think. And payments tend to have to meet compliance requirements and bank rules, etc. in a market. It's not possible to make a payments platform like that across multiple markets because of all the different regulatory environments.
No, I agree. And just very quickly, I think that's one of the secrets of Francophone Western Central Africa, right? So there's only two regulatory regimes, only two central banks to actually deal with across 17 plus countries, right? So for us, we're in the process of getting a license actually. We should have our bank license by Q1 of next year, which enables us. Right now, we have a closed digital wallet, so that allows us to open up the wallet and do things like peer-to-peer and a variety of have off-platform payments as well, for example. So 100% in agreement that unlocking this layer creates a lot of potential for creating value across the region.
I've just realized that about Francophone Emeka. That's spot on, like brilliant. Like, yo, that's my lesson, my insight for the day. I get that. That's really clever.
Great. It's great that my panelists can come to this talk and walk away with something. We've been chatting now for half an hour. I think we were running out of time, and I think we really started getting into the most exciting and interesting part of super apps and e-commerce, because it's all about payments. So I think, hopefully this is the first of many events that Maggie and her team will put on, and hopefully next year it'll be bigger and better. And we can have a longer session and more people joining. Maybe the Vodacoms and M-Pesa will join us and talking about payments. And I thank you all for your time, your input, your insights. Amazing. Emeka, your article I have posted a few times. Great article. Hopefully people can get that article he wrote. And I thank you very, very much. In closing, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. I think that was a really, engaging conversation. In Singapore, the super app there is Grab. Indonesia has got Gojek. Singapore has got Grab. Grab has also, apart from you order your food, you order your the transport, you also have Grab Pay. Like you say, it's a payment, it's a wallet. So. And that unicorn, is actually trying to expand into Southeast Asia as well. But the interesting point that Gour makes is that it's localization. And Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, they are pretty similar in terms of behavior, in terms of culture, in terms of so there are a lot of similar consumer behavior, which would then make it a bit more convenient for to get customer acquisition. That's my small take contribution to the discussion. Thank you very much. And we look forward to the next time when we do this event next year. Hopefully we get much broader representation as well. All right, we'll have a good evening, and we'll see you if you stay around. The last session will be starting in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Emeka. Thanks, Eero. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks, Gour. Yeah.